Imagine this. You're not in New York City. You're not in Los Angeles. You're not even in San Francisco. You're living in a small American city, maybe Boise, Idaho, or Tulsa, Oklahoma, places that were once known for being cheap, quiet, and affordable. But now, even in these smaller cities, rent prices are skyrocketing. A one-bedroom apartment that used to cost $600 10 years ago might easily be over $200 today. And for many people, that means living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to save, or even moving back with parents. But why is this happening? Why are rents becoming unaffordable, not just in big, glamorous cities, but in smaller towns too? Today, we're going to break this down step by step. The first and biggest reason rents are so high, even in small cities, is simple economics, supply and demand. More people are moving into these smaller cities because the bigger cities have become unaffordable. Think about it. When people get priced out of Los Angeles or San Francisco, they look for cheaper alternatives. Suddenly, small cities like Austin, Boise, or Nashville become the next best option. But here's the problem. The housing supply in these cities hasn't grown at the same pace. There aren't enough apartments or homes being built to meet the sudden rise in demand. When supply is limited and demand goes up, landlords can charge more, and people are forced to pay it because they have no choice. The COVID-19 pandemic introduced another twist: remote work. Before 2020, most people had to live near their jobs in big metro areas. But once remote work became normal, people realized they could leave expensive hubs and move to smaller cities while keeping their high-paying jobs. Imagine a software engineer earning a six-figure salary in San Francisco. If they move to a city like Boise, suddenly they can afford to pay double the local rent without breaking a sweat. Landlords see this and raise the prices, knowing people are willing to pay. Unfortunately, this makes life harder for locals who don't have Silicon Valley salaries but still have to compete in the same rental market. Another major reason rent is skyrocketing in small cities is the rise of corporate landlords and investment firms. In the past, if you rented an apartment, it was often from a local owner or family who maybe owned one or two properties. Now, huge investment companies and private equity firms are buying up rental properties across America, including in smaller cities. For them, housing isn't about community, it's about profit. They buy entire apartment complexes, raise rents aggressively, and cut costs on maintenance. These companies also have massive data tools to figure out exactly how much renters can pay before reaching their breaking point. So, instead of competition driving rents down, you have coordinated strategies by corporate landlords driving rents up. You might be thinking, well, why don't they just build more apartments? And that's a fair question. But here's the problem: zoning laws and local building restrictions. Many small U.S. cities have laws that make it extremely difficult to build high-density housing like apartment complexes. These laws were designed decades ago to keep neighborhoods quiet, suburban, and aesthetic. But today, these restrictions prevent the construction of affordable housing. On top of that, every new building project faces community opposition. Residents protest against apartments being built in their area, fearing it will increase traffic or change the character of the neighborhood. As a result, the housing supply remains stagnant, while demand skyrockets, leading to higher and higher rents. Another factor that often gets overlooked is inflation and rising costs for property owners. Property taxes, insurance, and maintenance costs have all gone up in recent years. For example, the cost of building materials like lumber and steel shot up dramatically during and after the pandemic. Utility costs also rose. Many landlords pass these increased expenses directly onto tenants through higher rent. While this doesn't fully explain the massive rent hikes, it does add fuel to the fire, making housing even less affordable. Here's the most painful truth. While rent prices have doubled or even tripled in some small cities, wages haven't kept up. Over the past few decades, the cost of living in the U.S. has increased much faster than average salaries. This means renters are spending a bigger and bigger portion of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. Financial experts often say that people should spend no more than 30% of their income on rent. But today, millions of Americans are spending 40%, 50%, or even 60% of their paychecks on housing. And that leaves very little money left for savings, healthcare, or emergencies. There's also the Airbnb effect. In many smaller cities, property owners realize they can make more money renting their units as short-term vacation rentals rather than long-term apartments. For example, instead of charging a tenant $1,000 a month, They might earn $150 per night on Airbnb. Even if the property isn't booked every night, the profits can be much higher than traditional rent. This takes homes off the market for local renters, reducing supply even more and driving up prices for the few units that are left. The result of all these factors is a housing crisis that's no longer limited to America's biggest cities. Families in small towns are being evicted because they can't keep up with rising rents. Young people who want to live independently are forced to move back in with their parents. Workers in essential jobs, teachers, nurses, restaurant staff, can't afford to live in the communities they serve. Homelessness, once thought to be a big city issue, is now increasing in smaller cities too. And the stress of housing insecurity affects mental health, family stability, and even the local economy. So, what's the solution? Experts suggest multiple steps: reforming zoning laws to allow more apartment construction, cracking down on corporate landlords and their monopolistic practices, offering rental assistance programs, and encouraging the building of affordable housing. Some cities are experimenting with rent control policies, although these remain controversial. Ultimately, the U.S. needs a balance, making housing affordable without discouraging new construction. Until that balance is found, renters in small cities will continue to feel the squeeze. So, the next time you hear someone say, "Why don't you just move to a smaller city if rent is too expensive?" remember, it's not that simple anymore. Even small cities are facing housing crises, driven by a mix of economics, policy, and corporate greed. And if nothing changes, the dream of affordable living in America may soon become just that, a dream.